Welcome back, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Not sure what happened. The broadcast ended, but you're back now. We're on Instagram Live. We're on Clubhouse. We're talking to just over 100 people at the moment about leadership. And we're going to jump in after the amazing Michelle's spoken, which will be a couple of minutes. We're going to carry on and talk and drop some points. We're going to be giving you some breakdown list on 8 different things left out of the previous 4 that I want you to acknowledge, look at, assess, however you want to word it, that's going to help you. And we're going to take each one and give you a couple of quick short subcategories below that you can then use within the business. This isn't about telling people you're wrong. This is about where are we now? How can I help you lead better? How can I give you tools to be a better leader? How can I give you different mindsets to lead differently? How can I give you different mindsets to think differently, to act differently, then to lead differently? It's about empowering you. Like go and help. Okay, this is what we've got. Put that in your head. Now I see it. And that's what we need to do.
How do you make people feel? So it's not just what we say, but it's how we say it. It's the method that we deliver our language and our communication and our instructions. So, for example, if you're in presentations, if you're in meetings, or if you're, you're presenting to your teams.
When you're thinking about your leadership side as well, assess yourself. Michelle's amazing. I'm really trying to listen to her as well because she's incredible. You should really check her out. But assess yourself. Take you less than half an hour. Go and do a personality test. Go and do an assessment. Jordan Peterson's one's really, really good. Find a bit more about yourself. Again, we're not talking about rebuilding yourself. We're saying about assessing yourself. You're not the same person you were a year ago, 6 months ago, 10 years ago. And you won't have noticed the changes. In the same way, you've never noticed yourself growing. You don't wake up and go, I've grown a lot today. It's a little bit every day. And it's the same with you as your body, your personality, your mindset. Right? So think about that. Imagine if you've changed 1% in all the different scales a month for the last 5 years. That means you're a very different person. What drives you is different. What you think is different. Your beliefs are different. Your values are different. Some have grown, some have decreased. Some are stronger, some are weaker. So you've got to really think about this. And it's arrogant of us, and I've done it for a long time, thinking what we did before will work next week. What we did last year should work next year. And sometimes it is. And if it is, that's great. It's really good. But do it. But do it. Work out where you are. So worst case scenario, even if you know you're on the, you're like, wow, yeah, I got it bang on. Nothing come up on that report, but I didn't expect. When you go off, you will execute to such a higher level. Because you'll be pinpoint accurate, confident that I am exactly what I said I am. I know me and I know what I need to do. That delivery that you put into it will make a massive difference. Why it's so important.
From, almost like reverse engineering and also, kind of taking the focus off of ourselves and onto, our staff or, our stakeholders and also our community. I really love it and hope to hear more from you going forward as well. And so with that, we'll pass the mic back to David for the second portion of his share as we aim to wrap up the room in the next 15 to 20 minutes or so. So if you have a question or a share after David's second half of his mini masterclass, you can actually use the double arrow on the top, on the bottom left corner to tell us what your question or share would be. Then we can call we can call on your name or bring you up to the stage after David's second half. So over to you, David. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Jackie. And could I just say, Michelle is always impressive when I hear her. Anyone who doesn't follow Michelle, especially, obviously follow everyone, but Michelle is just such an impressive person. I think it's really valuable to make sure that when we're talking about our leadership, it's understanding that there's different levels of what we're trying to become as a leader. But actually, what we're trying to do, again, what we talked about earlier, is first focus on, are we just managing what we're trying to do on a day-to-day, or are we trying to lead from where we are now? Imagine it like a path. Where you are now is your location, is you as a person, as your team, as your business. And the idea of the leader is taking them to a new destination. That's what we're talking about. We're not trying to manage the people that are there in that location. We're leading them to the next stage. And as a leader, we have to have all of those points very clear behind what we've got. We've got to listen to the team. We've got to be able to communicate effectively. We've got to be a clear example. Moving on to number 4, we've got to be really passionate. Now, I'm not saying fake enthusiasm and rah-rah, but passion starts inside of you. Passion is not something we should turn on and turn off. It should be something that we have. But realize this, the likelihood someone else is going to get more passionate than you is pretty slim as a leader. And if they do, it's going to be warning bells for you. But it comes from another things. Understanding who your people are, who's in your team, what's their driving force, getting behind their goals, their belief, their vision can bring out passion. It increases a more productive work environment. Everyone's been into an office, a building, a shop, a company where it's just flat. And every single time I've ever seen it, the leadership is always the flattest. So if you want to encourage your team, your group to be more productive, to be more passionate, to deliver to a higher standard, you've got to see yourself as the coal of the fire. And if we're not bringing the passion and the enthusiasm into what we do, we cannot expect those other people to come behind that. As a leader, one of the big things I talk to a lot of people about, which we see a lack of, is the consistency. And this is number 5. You've got to be consistent. We've got to follow through with our commitments. Managers often will wear a lot of hats. I get that. So they commit to a huge amount of different things. But being a great leader is being able to take the small steps. The big problem when we're talking about consistency is it's normally all or nothing. Suddenly the company decides, oh, well, I want to go off and do this now. We've got a big release. We've got a product. So now they become more consistent, and then they demand their team become more consistent because they're being more consistent. But you're not being consistent. You've just increased your productivity level. You've just done that for a week, 2 weeks while you're doing a launch. And you expect consistency just to automatically come. Here's the big thing we've got. Consistency is a habit. And if you've got people that are ingrained on not being consistent, you have to be prepared to get them to be uncomfortable for a while whilst you become consistent. You have to realize when you decide as a leader to change something, if they're not used to you committing to something and staying consistent, they won't adapt to it straight away. So imagine where you are now, what your location is right now, whatever the problem, the pain point, the issue you've got. You decide to go from your current location to a new location. And you're like, come on, guys, come with me. And they're like, no point. He'll be back in a minute. He doesn't commit to stuff. They need to see some consistent action coming through. They need to see that moving forward. Anyone who's interested in knowing more, hit that link at the top. You can go and grab on the free access that give you more details on this. But the consistency is really clear. You have to work out exactly how you're going to do it. If you don't have a clearly identified list, if you don't have a system and a process to track and monitor those teams, to stay consistent, you cannot expect them to bring consistency to you. You cannot expect just because you're motivated one day, but they will become motivated on that day. They need to see the consistency that come rain or sunshine, come hell or high water. They know what to expect from you and also what you expect from them. With my team at the moment, we've got it where every single week, when they come on board, they are given a breakdown of, they fill these out. What do you class as a good week? What do you class as an amazing week? what do you class as a bad week on different areas? That could be amount of phone calls made, amount of proposals sent out, amount of people pitched, amount of deals, amount of upsells, amount of follow-ups, the whole lot. And they break down what they believe will be a good, amazing, and a bad week. Now, for me to get them to stay consistent, they expect to see my consistency. Anyone who's been on my social media today would have seen. I upload things like this to my team because they need to see that I turn up. They need to see that I write my goals out every single day. Now, do I want my team to write their goals every day? Doesn't really matter. But the action of me staying actively consistent makes it far easier to expect consistency from your team. And also, it's far harder for them to say, well, you don't do it. So if you want to get consistent teams, deliver consistency for 90 days without asking your team for a single thing extra. And it's hard. Do what you're doing now. Make a little 1% here, 1% there, fine. Implement a few things, fine. But if you're going to make a big change, take that big change for yourself first. If you've got a good team that's already motivated, you can say, come with me, I'm going on a new path, I want to take you with me, this is where we're going. But if your team isn't fully engaged right now, take the actions and let them know you're taking the actions. Let them see the actions. Let them see the consistency. Not by, oh, I came in at 7 today, guys, you came in at 9, I've been here for ages. Don't show off. Find a way to show them without asking them for a single thing. And you'll be surprised. Just by you leading from the front without asking, if you have the right team, emphasis on the right team, they will lead themselves on your path. It shouldn't just be a case of me telling you to do something. If I show you a way that's working and you don't pick up from that, then you've got to question the fact of whether your hiring was right to start with. But give it the time to see how much they activate themselves. Because a person who activates themselves is going to be far easier to keep them consistent. There's a phrase before, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. And what we mean by that is you can get people to follow you. It doesn't mean you're leading them. And it's a really big difference. Right, so number 6, make firm decisions. So we're talking here about leadership. A great leader does not question themselves about the decisions they've got. You might have a bit of doubt, you might have uncertainty, but most decisions that we make are not going to be 100% certain, but we've still got to make a firm decision. We accept that indecision doesn't help us. We accept, if we're waiting for a cast iron guarantee, a letter from the Queen saying, I 100% vouch that this will guaranteed work, we'd never get a single thing done. But we've got to show a level of confidence and commitment behind the decisions that we make. Now, part of your planning for your decision making might well be, well, if we do A, B, then C, and it doesn't work, we'll pivot to D. That's part of leadership. But committing to fully A, B, and C at the start is really important. Now, we need to encourage with our teams things like critical thinking. We need to expect and manage disagreement. It's naive to think that people are just going to hear our voices, hear our words, and go, my God, it's the promised land. We have to expect. People are not always going to be aligned with your thinking. They're always not going to be aligned with the way you do it. But what I want you to start doing as a leader is start thinking, when that happens, what am I going to do? When someone says, I disagree with you, how are you going to act? You're going to just say, just do it? Are you going to ask them to write down what they propose? Are you going to take them off for a conversation? How do you work your team? How do you work these solutions? How do you uncover solutions when disagreements happen? You've got to be able to overcome bias and assumptions. You've got to have inclusive discussions with your team without losing control of what's actually going on. You've got to be able to learn to assign some responsibility. And then you've got to be able to turn the decisions, the discussions, the deadlines, the disagreements turned into solutions, the critical thinking into action steps that are practical and actionable, not just for the way you want it to look, but for the most effective results that we're going to get. And when you've got it in that clear idea, it's going to make it far easier for us to actually go off and deliver better results.